like button because you like us lots. We're gonna do a tool tip for you. Ba, 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 ba. Let's do a tool tip Tuesday. I've hit the button and we're ready to go. Boop, boop. Did you hit the like button? Button because you like us lots. We're gonna do a tool tip for you. So, just for those who don't know why we're singing at the beginning, it's usually because it takes a minute for it to start. So anyway, hit the like button, boop, 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 and add your comments below because that's always helpful. Hi, it's me, Jennifer from Little Metal Foxes, and
Julia from Little Metal Foxes.
and
Helen from Little Metal Foxes.
hello, ladies. How are you today?
Good.
Hooray! So we are sort of in a partial celebration mode. What? Boopity boop boop boop. Because Helen's getting closer to Australia. So
Closer.
It's a long trip. It
you can
takes a
see
long
the
time.
boat pulling into port now. The light at the end of the tunnel is a moving truck. So yay. We're very excited for you. All right. Yay. And Julia had a discussion recently, and this came up for cleaning up into the smaller areas and doing little doodads, cleaning up things. And the subject of the Tam O'Shanter home came up, and also known as the Scotchstone or the Water of Ayr.
Water of Ayr stone.
So yeah, they're these things. So Julia, tell us more about it.
Well, on another list that another group we're part of, there was someone who was like, how do I clear up something that's really tiny, like really, really tiny spaces? And there's a lot of finishing happening this month, right? Like this is the month where everybody's like frantically trying to complete things. And sometimes that little scratch or that little solder blob that's like under the gallery of something, or it's in like this really difficult spot, can just really like ruin your day, right?
Yeah.
Because trying to get in there can be really hard. So there are lots of bigger things. Like if you have a whole class on finishing, Jennifer, and you have big wheels and things like that, but getting into really tiny spots is the trick.
Yeah.
And so
Well, sometimes you don't want something that's so abrasive like a burr or, sometimes
right.
putting something in the flex shaft, especially if it's something that's fragile or delicate, and you just need to like, get in there something. And yeah, sandpaper doesn't work. And you're like, so
how the hell? Yes. So I remembered that I had written an article now several years ago about trying to find a replacement for the elusive Tam O'Shanter hone, right? Because these things, the Tam O'Shanter hone, the eponymous Tam O'Shanter hone, I'm trying to get so you can see the label. Everybody knows what they are in the watchmaker and jewelry industry because they come with they had these red labels on them, and the red labels were applied with some industrial quality adhesive, and so they never fall off. So if you know an old jeweler or an old watchmaker, there's going to be one of these that's going to have a red label, and most of them are not this size.
I want a close up of that. Let's see the label.
Okay, so and then most of them were not that size. Most of them were like this. Yeah. Let me spotlight.
Document cam?
Yeah, I can document camera in a second. I'll show it to you in a second.
It's kind of hard to read because it's so dark.
Yeah, it's dark.
I'll show you this in a second on in the document camera.
Okay.
But while we're still just chatting about this, so most of the ones watchmakers use are actually smaller, like this, right? They're more pencil size. Yeah, little guys. And they're cool because you can shape the tip of them and make whatever shape you want and get into really small places. And you can buy them on eBay sometimes, but they're the mine where they were being made, where they're being quarried in Scotland, closed about a quarter of a century ago now, around 2000. And so, yes, you could find them online, but I didn't want to recommend that to brand new students because I didn't want to send them down the rabbit hole of trying to find this thing. So then I did a whole article on what would be a good replacement and kind of canvassed people in the industry and whatnot. And so I have those things here, and I'm going to show them to you now. But one of my favorites is the one that goes in this guy, which is the Guess Wine Super Ceramic Stone, which has fibers in it. So it only cuts on the tip. It doesn't cut on the sides. So this is one of the things that's actually really cool about these little guys is when you have it out of here, right? It's this tiny little piece. And because the fibers are aligned with this synthetic object, it only cuts at the end. So if you rub something on the side, it doesn't cut, right? So that's good if you don't want to accidentally cut something. Yeah. Anyway, let me
Like if you're trying to clean the bottom of a bezel and not wear down the bezel itself.
exactly. So let me get this in here. So let me turn on my camera and then I can show you.
Oh, I forgot. I have hosting duties myself.
Okay, so
Nice.
this. So first of all, let's show you the label on here. So this is the celebrated Scotch mark Tam O'Shanter in inverted commas hone used by the most eminent firms of watch and clock manufacturers, lithographers, etc., etc. Merchandise mark X makes it in fence to remove trade labels, etc., etc. And then it also says the Water of Ayr and Tam O'Shanter Hone Works Limited, right? Was the actual place where they
85. Let's go old school, shall we?
what?
Yeah, London 1885, 1890. Yeah, look at that.
For excellence and quality of stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of the hones that they have had these labels on them, right? Even the tiniest ones, right? Like this little teeny one here, it's like half of the label isn't, you can't even read the Tam O'Shanter part, right? Because it's been rolled around it. But they never come off. I mean, you'll find this in people's boxes because they'll break sometimes and, but it's still legible. And this one's actually cool. It's nice to see the end of this one because you can see it was actually sharpened like in a pencil sharpener kind of.
Yeah.
So
Whittled down, yeah, to a point.
yeah. So this is one of the Guest Wine Super Ceramic Stones. And this one is, let me see if I can get my, oh, it's upside down. So they actually are printed on here. So it's this new SuperStone, and this is a number 18. Sorry, number 800. So this is 800 grit, right?
Right. Yeah.
And they're not, this one is, I think it's 1 millimeter by 5 millimeters, I believe, is what this one is. And you can see I've used it a little bit because you can see it has a little bit of an angle in the end. So I have these Mars Stettler Mars Technico, I can't remember what the number is. It's like 7890 or something. That are for holding, that they're for holding lead, and you can see you can show which lead you're using, right? But it works really well for this because you just push the end, and then the little jaws, alien jaws come out, and then you can slip this in. So these are quite strong. You can snap them. You can take two pairs of parallel jaw pliers or flat nose pliers, and you can just break them in the middle. So I wouldn't work with it like out here because it will snap, right? But if you need to get into some place where you have a little bit of room, you can do that. So that's what I was going to do with this, because this is let's just assume that I had solder where I don't want it. You can come in here and I'm going to actually set it down on the table. Hold on. Because you do need to be supporting it on something. Like doing it in the air is less effective.
Yeah. Now,
And then,
you don't need to you need to use water with the Tam O'Shanter hone. But
yes, you need to use water with the Tam O'Shanter home, but with this one, you don't need to use water. Now, look at this. This was a really
Oh my
thin layer.
God.
Yeah. So this was a really thin layer of solder. Let me see
Like
if I can
solder wash. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But you can, like this is a little thicker here. So let's see if I can, and this is the 800 stone. But
Okay. Color me impressed. Wow.
Right?
Color me impressed. Wow. That's amazing.
Right. So it basically is just erasing the solder off of here.
Yeah.
Let me dump this out and see if we can see it a bit better. All right. So
So it's not creating like gouges in the surface. It's just kind of brushing it right off. Look at
This
that.
is
That's
this is
amazing.
800 grit. So yeah, so let me see if I can get a little closer focus.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it's not really damaging the surface at all.
No, well, hold on. Let me get this out here. See if I can show you. To back up a little bit.
Hello.
I know, sorry. I'm just trying to get a close enough focus. There you go.
That
So you can
is crazy.
see there are some scratch marks from it,
But still, I mean,
but it basically just erased it off of there.
yeah.
Now, that is the advantage of the Tam O'Shanter hone too, because if you wet the Tam O'Shanter hone and do this, and actually let me get a little bit of water and I can do that just to show people.
Fuzzy. Fuzzy. Fuzzy, fuzzy. Focus.
All right, I know. I'm sorry. I went to get my little cup of water.
Okay.
So here's my little cup of water. Jennifer gave me this little cup. All right, so then you dip the Tam O'Shanter hone in water, and some stones are more thirsty than others. And then you're going to use it the same way. You're just, but it will make like a little slurry. You just use it
Right.
to kind of erase. It makes a little slurry. I mean, this is why the Tam O'Shanter hones, they say, oh, they're between 600 and 800 grit, because as it makes this little slurry, it's actually grinding down the grit finer
Yeah.
as it grinds it off. Now,
It
part of the
almost makes
problem,
a polishing slurry. Yeah.
exactly. Part of the problem is you can't really see what's going on because the slurry is in your way now.
Yeah. Some people do this in the sink. Like they'll do it over with some running water.
Right. But if you do that, you're going to you'll lose the efficacy of having your polishing slurry.
That's true.
So it did clean off a little bit more. It's taking it off more slowly, right? Which is good because sometimes you want it to come off really slowly and really gently. This is going to leave. This is the reason that these were so coveted or so used by everyone is that they. So let me get in here. You're going to get this really smooth
Yeah.
surface
It doesn't leave the scratches on the surface that the other one does.
that the other one does. Exactly. So I've got the loop, so I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
So it actually really kind of blends with the surface more effectively.
Right.
Um, so that's the big advantage of the Tam O'Shanter hone. And like I said, you can still get these. You can buy them on like eBay. So then the
Right.
other ones that I had found, and in the article, I did a test strip, right? And I have photographs of the test strip. So in the article that I did the Tam O'Shanter hone, the Guesswin Superstone. Then there was a Guesswin mold maker stone, which is this gray one. And then there were these engineered abrasives, which were these that were sort of a no-name thing. I think I picked them up, a set of them for like $8 or something. And so I had done a
Pretty good job.
test where,
Yeah.
what?
So they all look like they do a pretty good job.
Well, if you go to the article, you can see more closely. It's hard to see on here because this is old. This was years ago, but the Tam O'Shanter hone definitely made the smoothest surface.
Right.
Then it takes it off pretty aggressively, right? As we saw. So what I think I would probably do if I were using these is I would want to follow up with something that would smooth it a bit more. And what I found worked really well for smoothing it was this one.
Oh,
Right. So this one, are the Guesswine mold maker stones. This is like a 600 grit. And these also, you have to use water with them, right? You can see this
right.
one's been used a bit. So you definitely want to use water with these. Same with this. This one though, it's the same family. It's the ultra soft 1200 grit finishing stone, but it's in the same family of stones as these. These are called the mold makers. This is the name, but
Mhm.
all from Guesswine, Gesswin. But this one, because it's so fine, I think this one is probably the closest to like you were talking about using like a alabaster or marble or soapstone or something. You
Yeah.
know, this one's really fine. And so this one, basically on this sample, I had used like up to like 800 grit with this, and then I went over it with this 1200 one, and I got a really pretty shiny result.
Yeah, that looks good.
So you can see like the Tam O'Shanter hone, it does kind of polish it a little bit. This one still has some marks on it. It's hard to see on here because they're old, but there's some better pictures on the website. So you can see how there's scratches going this way and scratches going this way because I used like the 600 grit going up and down, and then I used the 800 grit going side to side. And I didn't quite go enough with the 800 grit to completely make the scratches from the first one disappear, but you could see that you could do that.
Right.
This one was like
That's
using
really nice.
the
Looking
white
really
stone.
good.
And then this one with the engineered abrasives, it's more like this guy.
Yeah.
But so they're cheap, but they get the job done if you have big lumps of solder, right? The problem with these, with all of these, is that they're pretty good sized. You know, I mean, they're pretty big, and so getting into some place that's really tiny is going to be tricky with these.
Well, you can sharpen those down too, right?
Yeah, I think because they're kind of crumbly, you know, they have a sort of, you know, they feel, I don't know how to describe it, but they have they're engineered. They're all engineered abrasives. And so yes, you could sharpen them down, but I don't know what would happen, how fine it would get before they would just disintegrate on you.
Oh, gotcha.
Right. It's really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Whereas these guys are designed to use tiny little ones like this. Like this one's the 800.
Yeah. And they have what, fiberglass on them?
I think it's, I can't remember what it says in the article. It's like alumina or something.
Oh,
Yeah. So this is the 800.
I'm
Wait,
gonna have
that
to get some
one.
of those. Those are
So, and then the other thing I wanted to show you about these is there are some that are even smaller, right?
what?
So, this one is the 1000 grit, and this is in, let's see, what size is it? Oh, 0.5 by 1 by 1 millimeter, right?
Wow.
So it's really small. So this is a pin vise. So I just got a couple because I had a couple because there's also this one. I think this one's
You can never
0.5.
have pin vices. So.
You can never have enough. Yeah, this one's 1 by 1 by 1 millimeter. This is a 300 grit. And so I had a couple that were, because this one, it has to be at least like, see, this was 2 millimeters wide. This is 0.5 by 2 by 1. So to be held in the Stetler, it has to be at least 2 millimeters wide because otherwise it just slips down inside.
Okay.
Right. So if you, for the ones that are 2 millimeters wide, that's great. Otherwise, you need to get something like this, or go to Guess Wine and get their set that comes with a holder, right? That's what I would recommend right now, is because they have some that come with a holder that looks a lot like this.
Yeah.
But it's designed to hold, I mean, I think all the pieces are cut to be the same size, and so the holder works. And there's one set that's like, I don't remember, it was like 120 and 400 and 800 and 1,000 or something was probably the set I would get.
Grit, not money.
Grit, yes. But for cleaning stuff out of really tiny locations, the Guess Wine ceramic SuperStone cannot be beat. Right?
That is
I mean, you
amazing.
saw it basically just like,
Yeah.
it was gone.
Yeah, that's amazing. So once again, for those that want to relate to the article, that is in under on your website.
Right, shoeboxstudio.com. We can put a link to it in the description.
Absolutely.
And we'll put a link to the Guess Wine. I mean, there should be links in the article to everything, but I will check the article and see, because some of the article was written a number of years ago, so some of those links may be broken at this point.
Right, right.
So
that's amazing. I'm really impressed because I've always used, you know, just the Scotchstone, but found the that marker. It's like a piece of like alabaster or soapstone that they use. So like for marking, you know, welding spots and things because it doesn't burn off.
Right.
So it works really well. It's almost like chalk, but it's a little harder than that. It almost feels like soapstone or alabaster.
And I
So
think that one, I think this one is probably the closest to that is what I was talking about, right? Because this
Yeah.
is like 1200 grit, but then it's a specific grit, and yeah, all of these, all of the mold maker, and then the ultra fine, ultra soft finishing stone. These are from Guess Wine, along with the
Yeah.
super ceramic stones, and they have bigger versions of the super ceramic stones as well.
Yeah.
Um,
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing, Julia.
you're welcome.
I appreciate it. That's good tips for finishing. I love it.
May your finishing this season be easy and fast so that
Yeah.
you can get on to eating delicious food and hanging out with the people you love.
That sounds like a great plan. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time. And make sure you hit that like button. Yay. And if you're ringing the bell and follow us, and if you are subscribed and ringing that bell, it'll let you know when we go live. And do we have any comments, Helen? Anybody join us today?
Just wanting to know where the article was, so I posted the link in the chat, and we're all good.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week for Tooltip Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.